Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Awesome People. What a pleasure it is to see you guys again. It's been a couple of days. And on this Tuesday, April 14th, I hope that wherever you're watching, you are safe and that your family is healthy, that your loved ones are healthy, and that you are social distancing as much as possible. I like to always remind everybody to please take this virus seriously. I myself have seen many loved ones and friends of loved ones be impacted by this, and the best way that you can avoid this is by avoiding going outside. And we're lucky to be able to have social media and the internet to be able to keep us entertained and amused during this time staying home. It could be a lot worse. So hopefully, you're doing all that. Today and tonight, actually, I have a very, very dear friend of mine who shot to designer fame many years ago because of her talents in creating beautiful, spectacular, unique wedding gowns. And instead of me talking too much about Sareh Nouri, there's this beautiful piece that her team have created. So I would rather introduce her via that video, and then we'll get to know the Sareh Nouri that I have gotten to know throughout the many years, much closer and in depth. Let's go.
I was born in Tehran and moved to the US from Iran when I was 9 years old. I really loved wedding gowns since I was a child, and my passion for bridal started when I designed my own wedding gown. Picking a brunette for this collection has an all-American look with the thick eyebrows. For me, it's so important to see my vision come to life through photography, and I've been very involved on being the decision maker on how I want my line represented.
All right. Well, hopefully you enjoyed that little intro about Sareh Nouri. Hopefully you can see the class, the elegance in her work, in her designs, in her mission and passion. And without any further ado, I would like to cordially welcome Sareh Nouri to the show. Hi, Sareh June.
Hi, Iman. How are you?
Wonderful. I appreciate you making time on an evening. I know you're a mother of two beautiful twins, Noor and Layli. And so balancing work and life must be very challenging. Thank you so much for making time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, especially during this difficult time.
Appreciate it. So tell me, speaking of difficult time, how are you and your amazing husband and your daughters, navigating through these incredible waters?
It's definitely something, that has changed a lot in our lives, not just work, but our routine. Obviously, the kids don't go to school, they're home, so we have to really navigate our schedule. My husband works from home, and I go back and forth. So it's been a little bit difficult. I think the first 2 weeks was the most difficult, and we're kind of getting used to it, but we just can't wait till everything goes back to normal. And I don't know what that's going to be.
Well, hopefully you guys are making the best out of it, and I'm sure that especially somebody like you who's been such a busy bee for as long as I remember you, you get to enjoy this incredible opportunity to spend so much time with your children at home and your husband as well.
Correct. I mean, I really have never spent so much time at home. I'm always on the go, work, traveling on weekends, doing trunk shows, working on new collections, just constantly on the go. I've never been home so much. So yeah, it's a little
How are the kids reacting with seeing mom home so much?
They actually are, I think they're a little surprised. We try to explain the virus to them. Everywhere is closed. You have to wear masks. Mommy's work is closed. School is closed. And so tonight when I was getting ready for this show, they were asking me, where are you going? Work is closed. So they're understanding it a little bit as much as they can.
How is it? I mean, I give so much props to parents who have children, I mean, really of all ages that are like at home when they normally aren't supposed to be. What kind of advice do you have for like parents who are, taking care of such young children who don't really understand what's going on? It's hard to explain a pandemic. I mean, they're still kind of grasping what life is. What's going on, like from a mother's standpoint? I would love to hear your thoughts.
I mean, really trying to keep them busy and a little bit of the schoolwork. I mean, they're not even 5 yet, so we're not there with the homeworks and everything else, but keeping the routine of their regular things they used to do. So, not just, playing games and going out and all that. So that obviously you have a full day with them, but just, including that part of their school, I think it helps a little bit.
Nice. So now transitioning from family life, let's kind of get into the road to Sareh Nouri New York. And I had the pleasure of getting to know you during our college years. You went to George Mason University. I was a Marylander. And, I remember back then you had such an affinity and love and passion for graphic design. And we had a lot of conversations back in the time about your design skills. And I would see some of your work and I was like, man, there's so much passion in like your design work. And but your story really begins much more before then. And we actually share the same story where you came to the United States in 1989, which is the same year that I came to this country. And you and your family first came to Virginia. And what's interesting about you is that you kind of lived out a dream that a lot of, especially young girls, they have, and that is being involved in making a wedding dress and creating a dress. So kind of tell us about your story and your love affair with bridal gowns and everything that has to do with like the wedding industry.
Well, it's interesting. I started doing this later in life. It wasn't that I always said I want to be a fashion designer or a bridal gown designer. I went to school for graphic design, as you said, at George Mason University, and I was an artist. So I sketched and I painted, and being an artist, I kind of wanted to do something that was with more of a modern, thing for the new generation. And I think graphic design was great and I loved it. But I didn't get to, and I always loved wedding dresses. I can't even tell you. I know it's like all the girls and little girls, everyone, I loved it. Every time I saw a bride, I would sit there and take a picture. So I had this like major passion. And after, when I was looking for my own dress, my wedding was in 2009, I couldn't find a dress I loved. I went to a bunch of boutiques in Virginia and all over, and I just really couldn't find what I was looking for. And I was lucky to meet a dressmaker, and she said, you know what, you design it, I'll make it for you. And I went to New York, I went to Garment District, got the fabric, exactly what I wanted, she made for me. And then after I got married, we moved to the New York metro area in New Jersey. And, this is the Mecca of fashion, New York. And I kept thinking about wedding dresses and nothing else, just the dresses. Just the wedding part. And everyone's like, oh, we had the same thing. It's the wedding blues. It's going to go away. Well, mine never really went away. It stayed. And I wanted to be in the wedding dress industry. So I got a job as a marketing director for a high-end bridal salon in New Jersey near my house. And I started there, and they carried a lot of high-end designers. And I started out doing part-time marketing, doing their graphics and all that stuff. And that was like kind of beginning stages based on what I was used to. I worked for corporate. I had a lot of experience in graphics. So just because it was in bridal, I was okay to give all that up and just kind of be in, beginning stages. And then that led to sales, and I was not in sales before, but that led into sales, and I started selling, working with brides one-on-one. And then I became a director of sales and a buyer. And a buyer is when you are in charge of buying the new collection for the store, what's the best fit for your area, the aesthetic, and all that stuff. So I became the buyer, and I got to meet a lot of designers and dressmakers. And I just kind of came up with my own line, and I started with 6 sashes and dresses. And I showed at the London Hotel in New York. My first show, I was super nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I was like, no one's going to pick up my stuff. I'm, new. I don't have a name. And I specifically remember I was making these belts, and they were just these like really unique, different type of belts. And back then they were not as much so much anymore, but they go over the dresses. And I was pricing them, and my husband's like, oh my gosh, you're overpricing these. No one's going to buy it. You don't have a name yet, all that. So the next day I sold 2 of them with the price point that I wanted. And it was really high. I was like, I can do this.
Why you got to call Ali out like that, man?
I got to like, you're not going to be able to sell this at this price. I'm like, yes, I can. And so it really didn't matter. Didn't care about the name. I was, I just had started. So I was like, okay. So
And I'm sorry, and what year was this? Was this 2009?
this was 2011. So remember,
2011, okay.
I was working in Bridal for a while before I even thought
Got
about
it.
doing something like this.
Okay.
It was late 2011. I did well. We went to the show, and my first show, I got into 15 new stores, and that's really hard to do. And everyone's like, "Oh, well," I thought that was the norm. I didn't know. I was just, in the beginning stages, and everyone's like, "That's incredible." So that was really motivating to see that. We came up with some really unique pieces in the beginning, and I think what helped me better than any school was to work with the brides one-on-one. What did they want? They wanted a top of this and things that didn't exist. What's a good fit? What looks good on them? What doesn't? Because they shop. A lot of our brides shop. They go to a lot of salons, and they would come, and there's a pretty reputable boutique, and they would be all over New York. They're like, I can't find this dress. And so it would come to me, and I'm like, I got to create things that is not out there. And so the brides were the best school for me. Learning from them was amazing. And also just working with the dressmakers, knowing the best fit and the fabrics and the vendors you meet. I was lucky to meet really, really good people that actually helped me.
So right now you just mentioned that the brides really help you. So brides, what they like in the style and fashion, it changes. So how has it been? Because you have a very distinguishable style, which is very modern but very traditional, very elegant. I mean, to be honest, the style of dresses that you have is very reflective of you, in my opinion. Like you're a modern woman, but there's a lot of class and elegance. That's very traditional style. But like now it's 2020,
Yeah.
and let's not even talk about the issue of Corona right now and how it's impacting the wedding industry.
Yeah.
But has that been like a challenge for you, or is that actually advantageous? How were you able to deal with today's modern bride versus 2009?
That's a really good question. To this day, they help me because I travel a lot. I travel a lot for trunk shows. I go all over the United States. I have sales managers that travel as well. We always put our heads together. When I go to a trunk show now, a bride's looking for something that's not out there. I'm like, oh, next collection, I should do this. This doesn't exist. She's been to 5 stores. Nobody has it. They have so many designers. So to this day, they are like, I always say I'm the bride's designer, meaning I do create unique pieces, but not too out of the box. They're for the bride. And so to this day, to answer your question, they help. They help tremendously, which is our number one key to being able to sell our collection and do well.
That's great. So obviously you had this love affinity for bridal, like you were saying, with wedding dresses. What was the catalyst where you're like, okay, I just want to make a fashion house now? Because there's a certain point where it goes from hobby and love and passion to, man, I got to take a huge leap of faith. This is a huge financial investment. I have a husband. I want to make a family. Where did you realize that I'm going to go hard and I'm going to make it Sareh Nouri fashion house?
Okay, so from the very beginning, I said to my husband, I said, if I do this, I'm going to do it all the way. I'm not going to make this a hobby. Either I do it or I don't do it. And then I was like, either I do high end or I don't do high end. So from the beginning, I set myself up for some goals. And my goal was to go international. My goal was to expand into other things outside of bridal and to grow the company. And we're in over 60 salons all over the world. And we're now expanding into evening wear. But all that takes time. Like, I don't want it to sound like, oh, I just decided this and overnight this happened. This was a lot of work and time and money and passion, blood, sweat, and tears that was put into this. It's a very difficult industry. It's a very competitive industry. But from the beginning, I said, I want to have a big business. It was never a hobby for me. No.
And so right now, you have your royal collection, which I thought was very beautiful, where you're talking about how you name all the gowns based on princesses and stuff. Right now, can you talk a little bit more about the royal collection that you released in the spring of 2020?
The spring of 2020 was the royal collection, and we named all the dresses, each of them after princesses. So each gown was named, and it kind of went with our characteristics. Like if you see, we have that the Farah cape with the blue, and just reminded me of like Queen Farah of Iran. And so each of them were kind of characteristics of the queens, and it resembled them. So when a bride says, oh, what is the name? They're like, oh, that makes sense, So it kind of goes with their look.
So, and then right now, I mean, when I saw the Royal Collection 2020, and it was a video that I absolutely loved that your team created, Um, how has this whole situation with the coronavirus like impacted you guys, and how do you see the outlook of the wedding industry as a whole, given what we're going through?
Well, obviously, when it first, there were talks of it, nobody knew how bad it's going to get, right? So I even traveled to one of my trunk shows, and they had an event for me in Charleston, South Carolina. It was March 6th. I even went to that event. There was not a lot of serious talk. And then when I came back, it kind of, started. When they announced that we have to do the shutdown, and then stores were emailing us, we're closed, don't ship anything. That's when it was like, oh my God, we've obviously, first time for everybody. We've never gone through anything like this. So, in the beginning, I like freaked out a little bit. I'm like, oh my God, what do we do? But we put our heads together and we came up with great, solutions. Long story, my production is still open. We're shipping on time. I was lucky that 90% of my dressmakers have home studios, so we distributed the dresses to them, and then my core production we kept, and
Awesome.
so the shipping keeps going. And as much as possible, I've kept almost everybody on payroll, trying to keep them busy until we open up, and things are looking a little positive right now. So
That's incredible. And like I mean, sorry, I've truly admired your entrepreneurship, your dedication, because I've seen you work, like grind so much throughout the years. So I wanted to have you a part of the show in general, but then when I saw what you guys did a couple of weeks ago, which was kind of just shift production to where you now want to help your community of health professionals, and you started making, your team started making masks. I'd love for you to kind of go into a little more detail about what is it that made you decide that, okay, hey, you know what, guys, we have this, let's see how we can help, and what's been going on ever since you've been doing this?
Well, in the beginning when it happened, I wasn't even like really thinking about that because we were trying to get our production together. But it was one evening I was watching Governor Cuomo of New York and Governor Murphy from New Jersey, and they're I mean, this was in the beginning, so there was a lot of shortage of masks and ventilators and things like that. And they were pleading, if you can do it, if you have the capability, if you have anyone that can make. And so I was like, well, I can't make ventilators. I can do masks, right? So I was like, you know what? I have this facility, this big design studio. I have the sewers, and I'm gonna see what fabrics. So the fabrics is where the problem comes. There's specifications. So we had to go to Atlantic Health here to see what they're looking for, what you have to cover up with. Like they won't accept any polyester. They won't any synthetic fabrics. It has to be breathable. So there was like it was a little bit of a challenge. We ended up having a few rolls of fabrics that we were able to use, and elastic. I'm like so lucky we were able to get the elastic to put it on. And so out of that, we got thousands of masks, and we started making them. And then what we did was we started emailing, and we did a post. We did a post on Instagram and Facebook, and we got over 200 emails. Not just New York, New Jersey, all over the world. And yeah. I was like, oh my God, we can't help everybody. So we just said, okay, let's narrow it down to New York, New Jersey. There's too many hospitals. And so from there, like we got contacts. There were so many Sareh Nouri brides and past brides, current brides, and future brides that are nurses. And nurses or physicians, and they were like, they gave us their contacts, so we would ship to them. They would take it to and distribute them. So that's how it all started. And in the beginning, we had to like make the pattern, and then we cut with a machine. We were cutting like hundreds at a time because, to save time and money to be able to do these quickly. And, in the beginning, like our dressmakers are couture wedding dressmakers. They're not mask makers. We're not one of those like sweatshops that are making masks. Right. So we had to transform from that to something so simple, though. It took them a couple of days to kind of like try to get these out quickly. But they're beautiful. They're cloth and they're breathable. They're a few layers and they're washable. So they really appreciated that, and we're still doing it. We asked for donations, and some of the designers were kind enough to send that to us, and I had a few people that actually ordered cotton fabrics for us online and shipped it. So we're still producing them.
That is incredible. So that was actually my next question is that are you guys still doing this? And if anybody wants to kind of like donate or just be a part of this goodwill that you're creating, where can they get more information? How can they be a part of this great movement?
On our Instagram and on our Facebook, it has a mask with a heart on it. It says Sareh Nouri. On there is our email address and contact, so they can just email us. We'll give them the content of the fabric we're looking for, and they can certainly donate, because a lot of people, like we had an ambulance team that needed it, police stations, you know. I know that more masks are being distributed now, but I think that it's good to always have them. You just don't know.
Well, the great thing is that you'll be able to add this to your product line in the future, because I have a feeling that a lot of people yeah, well, I mean, it's so funny because like a couple of days ago I saw like this, like, I don't know, Instagram thing or something, and it said Gucci, and I thought it was like a meme at first. I was like, oh yeah, Gucci, like a fancy one. Yeah. But then I remember like my niece was like, no, seriously, like in places like China, they get these high-end you know, masks, and I was like, oh wow, actually now that I think about it,
yeah, it could,
yeah, it could be like a fashion statement nowadays. So, you know, right now it's going to help professionals, but then as we live in this precarious world, you know, they can be wearing fashionable Sareh Nouri masks, you know.
No, we got a couple of people contacted us. They were looking for mass production. Like you're talking like 100,000 masks and things that they do overseas that they weren't able to do because nothing was open. But we just didn't have that capability of like putting, you know, aside our entire production to produce thousands of masks. That's just not what we're, you know, able to do. And I want to make sure we can still, you know, ship out brides' dresses on time and have our production. So
I love it. So, I mean, I'm sure it must be a gratifying feeling to know that during a time where so many people are going through such difficult times, that you and your team were able to at least do something and contribute in a very important way, actually.
Yeah, I think I feel so good doing it, knowing that people need it. I mean, I can't even tell you how many of our brides have emailed us thanking us, their moms. They're saying, oh, my son is a surgeon, or my son is a nurse, or my daughter, and you guys are helping out so much. I mean, when I didn't even think for something so little, there was so much gratitude. It was just like, you know, you feel better as a human, you know?
You're and I'm so glad and grateful that people like you are using their platform to do such things. I mean, there's so many people that have huge followings, and when it's time for them to step up, they don't. And so on behalf of a lot of people around the world, thank you and your team for going the extra mile and doing what you could in your capabilities to help people, especially people that are right now at the front lines of, you know, a war, you know. And so those are the people that they need the support, and you guys stepped up to the plate. So kudos to you and your team.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So we're gonna take a short break, and then when we come back, I'm gonna be asking you a little bit about you know, what advice that you have for designers or up-and-coming designers who want to go down the road as you. I want you to kind of give a little bit of advice on how you've been able to juggle the mom life, the wife life, and the entrepreneurial life. And so for all of the guests that are watching, stick around, and we'll have a lot more with Sareh Nouri coming up.
What's up?
All right, so we're back with my dear friend and talented fashion designer, Sareh Nouri. So, as I was saying right before the break, Sareh, like I know a lot of my friends that were messaging me, they were excited to hear more about you because just in general, like you haven't had that many interviews where you kind of share a lot of your experience and your path to the fashion house. So, if you could go back to 10, 15 years ago, knowing what you know now and all the grinding you've been going, what are some of the main takeaways where like, man, if I could do this all over again, these are the things I would do differently. These are the things that I would study. This is whatever. What kind of feedback would you have or what kind of advice would you have?
Well, let me tell you, so my story is a little bit different because I kind of fell into this because of my wedding and the passion I have for design and wedding dresses. So for me, it was timing and it was the love for bridal, and it kind of happened. And I told you that I really wanted to, it wasn't a hobby. So I always say, if you're going to do it, don't do it as a hobby because you're not going to give your 100%, right?
Right.
I gave my 110% because I knew it was something that I was investing in, something that was serious, and I was putting a lot of time into it. I would, be up till 2, 3 in the morning, sometimes working. I mean, and then remember in the beginning, I did everything by myself, and that's what you're going to have to do. You have to take baby steps. You can't just go in and get a loan or have money and just spend all your, personal money. And you have to do baby steps, and you have to do it yourself. I did quality control myself. I checked the dresses myself. I packed and shipped the dresses myself. I did my own website, logos. I can't even tell you. So that graphics really did come in handy
Yeah,
for
of
me.
course.
I did my own ads. I did everything, but honestly, besides making the dresses. So given that, if I hadn't done that, there's no way. And there was a lot of mistakes and things I did, and I learned. But I think that you have to be passionate. When you're passionate, like I enjoy doing those things by myself. Now, like when you talk about it, you're like, oh my God, it was a lot. But I actually enjoyed every step of it. I learned with my mistakes. I always had good people to help me as well. So it's okay to do things yourself. You don't have to from day one hire people and have a whole team. Now it's great. We have a team that does everything, and I still have my input on everything. It's not like I stepped away and I'm like, I don't want to be a part of this because now, my brand has taken off and, I sell to this many stores and all that stuff. It's not like that. I go to work every single day and I travel on weekends too. So it's because I love it. And I was telling my husband, I'm like, I realized after what happened now, how much I love this business and how much, like, I never said, oh, thank God, I'm going to be home for a few days. It's not like that. Like, I cannot wait to go back. We were launching our luxury evening dresses. Our new collection for bridal was coming out. Our photo shoot was scheduled. Everything got canceled, right? But I just can't wait to go back and do all that stuff. And I just made me realize how much I cannot be without it. Like, I truly, if I like win the lottery tomorrow, I would still do this. Let me just put it that way.
So this is just reaffirming the love affair that you have with creating beautiful gowns and just being in that environment.
Being in the environment and the people in our stores and our brides and my employees, and it's just everybody. Like,
It's a family. It's your second family.
Second family, exactly.
What are the biggest challenges? Because it's so easy, especially in the world that you're in, where everything is opulence and elegance and beauty, and everyone is just looking so perfect. But the reality is, just like any other business, there's so many challenges, so much stress. What would you say is like the most challenging part of Sareh Nouri New York?
The most challenging in the beginning when I started was to do a collection, to have a store pick up the collection, and to have the store keep you. Okay, you can get into a new store, but it's the fact you have to keep the ball rolling. You have to be able to sell. Everything is with number. You have to be able to sell. You have to be up to date. Brides will have to call and ask for you. The minute that I had brought my stores say, okay, or they would email or call us, this bride is requesting this dress, this bride, that's when I knew, okay, our name is out there in bridal, okay? They call and they ask for Sareh Nouri. They see it on social media, they see it on Pinterest, they see it, wherever on social media. But I feel that the most challenging is finding the right talent. Finding the right talent is extremely important, meaning good dressmakers, good cutters, good pattern makers, good managers, good salespeople. And you learn, you live and learn, you hire people. But I think that was the most challenging for me, because when you're new, everybody promises you things and, oh, I can do this, I can do that. And then when things are not done the right way, then you're like, oh, well, not really. So now we have a process. So
you made a very interesting comment right now, saying that it's one thing to get into them, but it's another thing to stay in there. And
yes.
Again, having been in person and social media friends with you for all these years, and seeing you go into all these heights, I remember there was always these milestone moments where you shared, I'm in this store now, I'm in Nordstrom, I'm this. Which of all the stores that you're now in all around the world, what is like the one that when you got into that store, you were like, oh, this was I'm so appreciative that all the work has finally led to this. Which one is that one store?
I hate to say this because I love all of my stores. I had two aha moments. Okay. I'll be honest with you. When I first started, Kleinfeld's in New York City. Kleinfeld's picked me up. I was still brand new. I was in my first year. They came to see us. There was a group of them. I was so nervous, and they just, they picked up the line, and I remember they all went out and by the elevator outside, and we just jumped up and down. Oh my God, I got into Kleinfeld. So that was an aha moment for me in the very beginning. And my second one, that from day one, when, a magazine had interviewed me my first year, they're like, what is the store that you want to get into? And that was Bergdorf Goodman in New York City. When I got into Bergdorf Goodman, I was like, it was just an honor, So
I love that. And so, and speaking of which, when you kind of get those like moments of gratification, it's almost like it's like a validation of, okay, the hard work is like being reciprocated, and like the opportunities are opening up. And you've had former American Idol Diane DeGarmo and Miss America Caressa Cameron. Who else is there that has adorned your dresses that you're proud of as well? That they, because in one of the nicest quotes that you have is, I believe finding a wedding dress is like finding a true friend. You should be able to trust it. You should never regret it. And whenever you see it, it should always make you smile, And so you have put that feeling into the arms and the body of many, 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 many brides. And so, like, how does that make you feel? And if there's a special bride story that you have that really touched you and made this all worthwhile, I would love to hear that from you.
Yeah, I mean, every single bride we have is special. I mean, they send us their wedding pictures thanking us so much, and how many compliments they get. And, we try to share those on our Instagram, and we want the brides to see a real bride in our dress. So like I said, I travel a lot for trunk shows. I get the opportunity to meet them. I love them. It's fabulous when they make the decision. And, when they tell you, you don't know, I've tried 50 to 100 dresses all over the country. I've been to so many stores, but your dresses are my aesthetic. So I love hearing that. And that's so motivating. And that's happened so many times. And, I know what they've tried on. They tell me what they've tried on. And so then they're like, we just keep circling back to your dresses. And, every designer has that story. With mine, it's like when they say that, it's super motivating. It makes me happy.
I love that.
There's a lot of competition out there,
Of course, there's a lot. But the cream always rises to the top, and so good for you. So what speaking of all these beautiful dresses, and I still remember pictures of you on your wedding day. Where is your wedding dress?
I got it preserved, and it's in a beautiful box. It's in the basement.
All right, cool. I had to ask.
And it's in a nice box. I got it preserved a couple of years after I got married, so I still have my dress. And
awesome.
And I always tell the brides, you should preserve your dress. Your daughter's not going to wear it. Styles are going to change, but it's something to have. It's nice.
Awesome, beautiful.
Yeah.
So one thing that has to do with your brand that I really, really appreciated, we're in the production field. So like for me, like, I'm behind the camera, in front of the camera, I direct, I come up with ideas, I brainstorm with my team. And then when I saw your longer documentary, which I really hope everybody watches the 3-minute version of your Royal Collection video, it's on your website and even Instagram. What I really loved is that video, instead of solely focusing on the bridal gown and the beautiful brides and all that stuff, it actually touches on how important it is for you to make sure that your brand is represented the right way, and that right way is the way that you have it envisioned.
Right.
And just kind of like talk about how you love to be right in the mix of things and be the creative force behind it all, and how important it is to you.
It's really important, and that, circles back to what I was saying in the beginning when I used to do everything myself. Okay, now I have help. I have a lot of help, but I'm still involved. The photo shoot, I'm involved. I'm involved in obviously the design aspect, the fittings, and how the dresses look, what fabrics we use. I think it's really important. You can't
way that you have it envisioned, and just kind of like talk about how you love to be right in the
step away. I feel like you can't, if you completely step away, you lose that sense of, being involved, and it kind of just takes over. I love being involved.
Do you ever actually do like the photography as well and videography, or you're just
No,
directing?
I leave that up to the professionals. But I do drive them crazy though. I'm always there. I'm like, do it like this, do it like that. But we collaborate, and one of my friends, a dear friend of mine that does the photography, and he now after many years knows how I work and what I want and what our vision is, and so we work together, and then a videographer as well. So
and I think consistency has been the key to your brand. Like what I really admired is just from day one, you've had the same look and feel of just quality, elegance, professionalism, and all of your marketing material. And I know just how much work goes into all those things. Like a lot of people don't know just how many hours, how many edits, and all that back and forth. So
there's a lot that goes into it. And Iman, like, going back to saying what I'm really proud of is that I was able to keep my manufacturing here in the United States, and I plan to do that. Made in the USA. That is so important for me. I have to have an eye on my production. I have to be able to have control over my production, and I want to, offer jobs here for dressmakers and cutters and sample makers and pattern makers. So for me, made in the USA, it's so important from day one. I did that, and I intend to keep it here, especially after now. So
that's amazing. No, that's very important, and I'm sure that everyone who's in the New York area especially really appreciates the fact that you're supporting them as well. So I want to talk to you a little bit about juggling this hectic life that you live, and what you do to really just stay sane, stay healthy, and being able to know your limits, and making sure that you're not overworking yourself. And it's so easy to get caught up with the hype. It's so easy to kind of get caught up with the popularity and, just kind of go. And this is actually one thing that I really appreciate about what's going on, is that it's allowed us to kind of slow down a little bit. But what do you do to kind of make sure that there's a healthy balance of driven work and also still being, at peace with yourself?
I don't know if there's a healthy balance, but like I said, it's always go, and to a point where I'm like, that's it. I need a couple days off, and then after 2 days, I'm like ready to go back. Like I said, I love what I do, so it's for me like I don't get burned out. So right now, with all this downtime, is where I'm having a hard time. I'm not used to this. I'm not used to just like staying home all the time, but I thankfully have my husband that helps me with the girls, and then I have, additional help. So I try to spend time with them on my days off. And at some point they were so used to me going to work, and they're like, are you going in the airplane? Is the taxi coming? Like they knew the whole process. So it's hard to juggle, but
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just was reminded of when you used to work at the airlines at Dulles Airport.
Yes.
What airline was it?
I worked for Scandinavian and Austrian Airlines.
That's right. Yeah.
So I still think about those days, and it was just so fun. I traveled the world. It's amazing. Completely
awesome.
different.
I was actually just watching the clip from Meet the Fockers where Ben Stiller is trying to get in, and then the lady at the gate is, there's like nobody in line.
And we wore those caps with the boots. And
I remember that. I definitely remember.
I still have pictures from those days.
That's awesome. So, but I want to know that if it was a Sunday afternoon and Monday is a holiday, what does Sareh choose to do to let her hair down and be super comfortable? Like, what makes you happy? What is your ideal perfect day when you're not focused on work?
I like to stay home if possible. I like to stay home and spend time with the girls and, doing activities, just like relaxing, nothing, crazy, going out and things like that. So I love spending time with them. They're growing up so fast and so quickly. So
What is like, what if you, do you like to go out to like restaurants? If so, what kind of like, what's your favorite place to go for a restaurant? What kind of ambiance do you like when you want to get out of your house? What kind of stuff do you do for fun?
we love to go out to eat. Here again, New York City's super close. So we do, go to New York when the weather's nice and go to Central Park with the girls or things like that. Just, nothing too crazy, hanging out with some friends and talking about other things than work sometimes.
How fun is it to have twins?
Twins are fun. Everywhere I go, people have stories with twins, or they know someone that has twins, or people that say, I always wanted twins. Twins are great, and I'm so, so blessed. They're fun. They're growing up together, but it's also very difficult because I went from no kids to two kids. So imagine, juggling that. So it's tough, but as they get older, it's so cute. They're talking now and, they understand you and they ask a lot of questions. So
Can you see distinguishable personality differences between Noor and Layli?
they're so different. They are two complete, not only they look different, they are completely two different kids.
Do one of them take after your personality and the other one after Ali?
Yeah,
Or are they completely?
I think so.
Which one is
looks
like
Ali
you?
and one looks like me too. So
And does the one that looks like you also have the same personality?
no,
Or oh,
no.
it's switched.
Well, no, yes, yes. So Layli, everyone says like she looks like me, and so she has my personality. And Noor looks like her dad, and she has his personality. But Noor is the one that actually is really, really into fashion. I can't even tell you. I like look at her, I'm like, oh my gosh. She
So
loves it.
is she the one that like constantly wants to go to work with you, or?
Yes. She calls them mommy's pretties, and every time she sees a bride, she says mommy's pretty. She calls dresses pretty. And so they're both like recognizing that now, even though I don't take them to work that much, where they used to go to school and now I really can't take them. But when they went to
Yeah,
school, it was never time. But I've only taken them a few times, but they love it. They love it.
awesome. Okay, so there comes a point at the end of every show that I have where I really would love to give my guests an opportunity to share, um, really a positive message. I feel like right now, one of the main reasons why I started doing this podcast is because the world just needs something to be inspired by. They need something to kind of, they want to hear stories of resilience. And I look at you as a mother and having gone through all the stress of growing a business. These are stories of strength, of perseverance. And I still want to give an opportunity for my guests to share what it is that they want to spread in the world. So the stage is all yours to share whatever it is that you're passionate about that you would like to teach.
All right. Well, I can only talk about my experiences, and I'm a very resilient person, and I think that's the personality you have to have if you want to have a business. You have to have thick skin, and you can't take anything personally. In the beginning, I did. Obviously, I wasn't too familiar, but you kind of grow into that. And like I said, you have to take baby steps. There's no such thing as wrong, and even if it is, no one's going to blame. I mean, there's no company that has grown that from day one they were perfect, right? And you have to ask questions and ask for help. That's something I didn't really do in the beginning. I didn't ask for help. I was too shy to say, kind of like, I'll just figure it out myself. I think it's really good to ask for help for people that are more experienced, that have more knowledge in the specific industry, no matter what you want to do. If you want to open up a restaurant, you want to be a designer, for a designer, I would say the most important thing, if that's what you're thinking you want to do and you have a passion for it, I think it's so good to do a few internships or go work for a designer. See the back end of the business before you decide you want to be a designer. I think that's one thing that I would have loved to have had to work for an actual designer, because you get to see everything. We have interns, we have administrative people, we have, production coordinators that are with us. They tell me, and then they're like, this was so helpful. I saw on a daily basis the struggles, the mistakes, the problems, redoing a dress, cutting a fabric that was damaged. Like, they get to see every aspect of it, the marketing, everything. There's so much that goes into it. So that's my feedback. That's my suggestion.
I love it. And actually, before we go, I do want to ask you, Where do you see Sareh Nouri in 5 years?
Mm. Well, we were going to expand into our luxury evening dresses, um, which is actually being made right now. So it's up and running. The first thing I'm going to do is, photograph it and do all the marketing materials. But bridal will always be my baby. I love bridal. That's the core of my business. But I think that we do need to expand the brand into other divisions in order to grow. If you just stay within, bridal, you're not going to grow. I'm going to do evening. There's a lot of opportunity. There's so much licensing opportunities you can do. So just expanding the brand. I don't know exactly where, but I do want to see my label to be, out there more other than bridal.
Are you taking on any new interns in case anyone's interested and wants to contact you guys, or do you have a long
Yeah,
list of people?
sure. We need so much help right now.
Well, hey, I
Once
mean,
this is over. Yes.
so yeah, so SarehNouri.com is for sure the place to go and contact. And Sarah, I'm super, super proud of you. It's been so fun to, see your journey, and I see that how much passion and love that you have for it, and that's why the brand has grown to the point that it has, because you're behind it and you're giving it your all. So I wish you continued success. I wish you and Ali and Layli and Noor health and happiness, and hopefully you guys can really take full advantage of these next few weeks, and hopefully not months, but few weeks,
Yeah.
inside the house, and you'll be right back on the road, and brides will be, loving getting to know the person that made their memorable dress. So
Uh,
I appreciate your time, and hopefully the kids didn't wake up. Send my
no,
best to
they
Ali.
didn't make up. I was worried about that.
Send my best to Ali. Say hi to your family, and can't wait to see you soon again.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun.
Well,
Thank
good
you.
night. Bye bye.
Jackson.